can hear anything now.
Mute it on here?
Everyone's muted. Can't hear.
The council will come to order. Pursuant to Illinois Executive Order 2020-07, issued by the governor on March 16, 2020, suspending provisions of the Open Meetings Act and encouraging remote participation, this meeting is conducted by video conference. We will now have a roll call to establish quorum. Will the aldermen please make sure that their microphones are unmuted? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman LaSpada. Alderman LaSpada.
Here.
Alderman Hopkins.
Here.
Alderman Dowell.
Here.
Alderman King.
Here.
Alderman Hairston.
Present.
Alderman Sawyer.
Here.
Alderman Mitchell.
Here.
Alderman Harris.
Here.
Alderman Beal.
Yep.
Alderman Sedlowski Garza.
Present.
Alderman Thompson.
Here.
Alderman Cardenas.
Here.
Alderman Quinn.
Here.
Alderman Burke.
Here.
Alderman Lopez.
Present.
Alderman Coleman.
Here.
Alderman Moore.
Present.
Alderman Curtis.
Here.
Alderman O'Shea.
Here.
Alderman Taylor.
Here.
Alderman Brookins.
Here.
Alderman Rodriguez.
Here.
Alderman Rodriguez.
I'm here.
Alderman Tavares.
Here.
Alderman Scott.
Present.
Alderman Cicho Lopez. Alderman Cicho Lopez. Alderman Maldonado. Alderman Maldonado. Alderman Burnett.
Here.
Alderman Irvin.
Here.
Alderman Telefiero.
Here.
Alderman Ruboyes.
Here.
Alderman Cardona.
Here.
Alderman Wagispack.
Here.
Alderman Rodriguez Sanchez.
Presente.
Alderman Austin. Alderman Austin. Alderman Ramirez Rosa.
Present.
Alderman Villegas.
Here.
Alderman Mitz.
Here.
Alderman Spizzato.
Here.
Alderman Nugent.
Here.
Alderman Vasquez.
Here.
Alderman Napolitano.
Present.
Alderman Riley.
Here.
Alderman Smith.
Here.
Alderman Tunney.
Here.
Alderman Gardner.
Present.
Alderman Kappelman.
Here.
Alderman Martin.
Here.
Alderman Osterman.
Here.
Alderman Haddon.
Here.
Alderman Silverstein.
Here.
Alderman Cicho Lopez. Alderman Maldonado. Alderman Austin. Your Honor, there are 47 members present.
There are 47 members present. We have a quorum. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
Liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
Please remain standing. The invocation will be delivered by Pastor Adonna Davis Reed of the South Shore United Methodist Church. Pastor Reed.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I bring greetings from South Shore United Methodist Church to all honorable elected officials gathered, especially Mayor Lightfoot and the aldermen of the 7th Ward, in which South Shore United Methodist Church is located, Greg Mitchell, as well as Alderman Leslie Hairston of the 5th Ward and Alderman Michelle Harris of the 8th Ward, both of which are where many of our members live. And a thank you to Vance Henry for this opportunity to come before you this morning. Let us quiet our minds and center our hearts in an attitude of prayer. Lord, we come before you first to offer thanks for another day of life, another opportunity to behold the faces of loved ones, to hear the familiar voices of family, friends, and colleagues. Another opportunity to assume the posture of dedicated civil servants who have gathered this morning from points all across this great city to do your work for the betterment of all those who live, work, and play here. We thank you for Chicago, with its vast array of diversity of every kind. We pray for all the constituents of Chicago, from the youngest to the eldest, that represent a broad spectrum of needs to be met, especially as the city, state, country, and indeed the world responds to the coronavirus pandemic during these unprecedented times. Gracious God, guide and shepherd these your servants, that they may exercise their leadership with wisdom and a heart of mercy and a mind bent towards justice. We confess that leadership in the political arena is often a balancing act between these two cousins, mercy and justice. But help those who are gathered here to seek that perfect balance, working together for the good of all Chicagoans. May your presence be felt and peace prevail throughout today's proceedings. We pray all this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. At this time, we will have public comment. Mr. Clerk?
Council will now begin the public comment period, which is limited to a maximum of 30 minutes. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Any written comments that have been submitted will be posted and made available for automatic review. The first speaker is Mr. Theodore Bourget.
Hey everyone, can everyone hear me? Okay. I've been completely out of work since the pandemic started, and I'm the only breadwinner of my family. I haven't seen a dime from the unemployment office since I filed in late March. We're unbelievably lucky to not be starving right now. But even if I were still employed, I would be paying over 70% of my paychecks on rent. I know there are hundreds of thousands of people in my exact situation, either severely rent burdened or broke, or both. It's not okay now, and it was never okay. People shouldn't be forced to bleed themselves dry in order to avoid homelessness, and homeless folks don't deserve to suffer and die. We need housing for everyone because it's common sense. Rent relief is just a step in that direction. I represent a union of almost 100 people on the South Side, all of us being strangled by the same real estate investment corporation, the multi-million-dollar Antheus Capital, or locally known as Mac Property Management. Despite Mayor Lightfoot's solidarity pledge, I think I speak for everyone in my union when I say that this should not be something landlords can just opt into. When our landlords are given an option, they have been and will continue to always choose their bottom line. The silence from our 4th and 5th Ward aldermen is deafening as people from these districts are being harassed and kicked out of their homes for going on rent strike during this pandemic. My fellow tenants are essentially fending for themselves. When the COVID-19 stay-at-home order is lifted, I can guarantee that evictions will be flooding the courtrooms of this city, and thousands more will never even see the courts unless we do something about it. This pandemic has shown all of us that our governments do have the power to mobilize in an emergency. Bureaucracy and budget are not actually obstacles in the way of providing housing and medical care for everyone. It is the obvious injustices at play here that are going to be the most traumatizing for those of us who are unemployed, about to become evicted, or doing essential work. I'm calling to demand a rent freeze because it is the bare minimum of what folks need right now. We need to lift the ban on rent control. We need an end to illegal evictions. We need a standard of medical coverage and humane working conditions for essential workers. And we need to send prisoners home at a rate several orders of magnitude higher than we are currently. At the very least, constituents deserve to be treated like people, even if they can't help fund anyone's election campaign. In fact, those are the people that most need your help right now. We will remember what decisions you make this week.
Thank you, Mr. Bourget. The next speaker is Mr. Edward Johnson.
Good morning. My name is Edward Johnson, and I'm speaking to the ordinance before you today regarding rent relief for airport concessionaires. I am a supervisor at Big Bar Restaurant in Westfield Managed Terminal 5 at O'Hare. The restaurant is operated by Areas USA. I'm also a member of Unite Here Local 1. Westfield portfolio was valued at just over $70 billion at the end of last year, before the COVID crisis. Areas employed about 180 people in O'Hare T5. I was laid off in mid-March because of the COVID-19 crisis. Then on March 31st, Areas cut off health insurance for my coworkers and I. This means me and my son are now without insurance. It's heartless for Areas to cut off access to health care for associates at O'Hare, especially when thousands of other concessionaire workers at the same airport are not being put in this situation. Areas is the only major concessionaires company at O'Hare that has cut off workers' health insurance. The other two large concessionaires at O'Hare, SMS Host, and Hudson News have both made sure workers can keep their insurance throughout this pandemic. Areas is the only major concessionaire at O'Hare where workers do not have Unite Here Health, the affordable quality insurance plan the majority of other airport concessionaires workers have. It's enraging for Areas to cut off my health insurance and send me COVID papers to tell me that they will offer me insurance for $2,000 a month for family, which I fall into, and $731 for individuals. I can't afford it. I have to pay rent and keep a roof over my kids' heads. It's shameful that Areas and by proxy Westfield will put the burden on someone to make a choice between your health and having a place to live for your family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. The next speaker is Ms. Laura Compton.
Mayor Lightfoot and members of the council, I am honored to have the opportunity to speak with all of you today. I am Laura Compton, and I am a 10-year resident of Chicago's 43rd Ward, a member of Clean the North branch, and most importantly, a mom. I am truly supportive of the work Mayor Lightfoot's administration and all of you are doing to keep residents safe during this pandemic. On Monday morning, I was balancing getting my kids ready for homeschool and my conference calls for work when our entire house shook. After confirming my family was safe, I checked in on our neighbors. Within minutes, our community learned that the shake was caused by an explosion at General Iron and that there was a fire on site. I made sure that my windows were closed, that all 4 of our air filters were on, told my neighbors to do the same, and told my kids they could not go outside for the day. While the explosion on Monday was big, my neighbors and I deal with the pollution, smells, noise, and explosions from General Iron on a daily basis. Even before the pandemic, it was normal, albeit shocking, to see General Iron workers walking our streets, Clybourne, Cortland, North, as well as our alleys, wearing PPE and gas masks, while picking up fiberglass fluff and disposing it in mislabeled metal canisters. And on March 12, 2020, as our city was making its initial plans to address the COVID-19 pandemic, a Chicago Department of Health Environment inspector responded to a citizen's complaint and witnessed firsthand what we experienced. Inspection log number 11208389 states, I could not fully inhale, nor could I keep my eyes open at this location. When leaving the area after the inspection, I could feel my nose throbbing and chest discomfort. While I applaud and appreciate the swiftness of the commissioners and Mayor Lightfoot to issue Monday's closure order for General Iron, the order does not go far enough. It is a pause. It is not a shutdown. The city has again left a loophole for General Iron to repair, reopen, and pollute our community, as well as to pick up its EPA violating operations on the north side and move it to the southeast side. It shouldn't have come to this, but Clean the North branch submitted resolution R2020358, calling on General Iron to be shut down until phase 5 of Chicago's reopening plan. As a neighbor of General Iron, I implore each of you to sponsor this resolution and tell this serial polluter and others like it, Matt Asphalt and Sims Metal, enough is enough. Why are residents being forced to propose legislative action to keep our community safe? Let me be clear. General Iron has proven time and time again that they cannot and will not adhere to the rules and regulations the EPA and the city of Chicago set.
Thank
General
you.
Iron.
Ms. Compton, thank you very much for your comments, but your time has expired. The next speaker is Mr. Tim Compton.
Thank you, City Council and Mayor Lightfoot for this opportunity. My name is Tim Compton. I'm a 10-year resident of Lincoln Park with 2 young children in CPS and a concerned neighbor of General Iron. While Monday's explosion may have drawn the attention of the city and news outlets, it really is nothing new. For residents like us who live under the cloud of General Iron, loud explosions, the constant sound of crunching cars, and of course the smell of burning metal are nothing new. General Iron has no regard for the residents of the area or city permit laws. General Iron's permit allows it to work Monday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It doesn't care. It starts its loud metal sorting operations at 6 a.m. and will commonly work past 7 p.m. It worked past midnight last month until I had to confront them. I'd be happy to share the video of this if needed. On many days, the smell of burning metal can be nearly overpowering, especially on calm, warm summer days when all anyone wants to do is be outside, but we can't. I'd like to thank Mayor Lightfoot for allowing the city administration to cite General Iron for the multiple violations recently and truly enforce environmental laws that protect residents. Mayor Lightfoot's leadership in this matter is a model of what proper civil service is supposed to look like. The biggest reason General Iron is still here polluting and exploding is because some members of this council prefer campaign donations over residents' health. Aldermen Tooney, Zadinas, and Burnett have all received tens of thousands of dollars in donations from General Iron, and all have voted in support of this polluter. Alderman Burnett has even spoken out on behalf of the ownership of General Iron, as he has broken bread with them. Alderman Hopkins has been the only alderman to introduce bills to curb General Iron down, and each time the previous mayor and other aldermen have killed a bill or stood by and done nothing. It is a shame that residents are being forced to propose legislative action, but I urge all of you to sponsor Resolution 358. Now is the time to show us that you are here to protect our communities. General Iron simply doesn't care about nearby residents, it doesn't care about the safety of the facilities, and it doesn't care about the city of Chicago. The only thing General Iron cares about is its own profit. Polluters like General Iron have no place in the neighborhoods of Chicago. I ask that this council work with Alderman Hopkins and Smith on revoking General Iron's permit and help make our city healthier. General Iron should not be allowed to operate on the north side, on the south side, or anywhere in between. Permanently shut down General Iron now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Compton. The next speaker is Ms. Bonita Harrison.
Hello, Mayor Lightfoot, City Council members. My name is Bonita Harrison, a single mother and housing provider, representing the fragile tenant class, the working poor. I am a member of MBOA, and I appealed to you on April 24th council meeting. Housing providers are the people on the front line, maintaining the main essential element of the shelter-in-place order, the shelter. We are sanitizing the common areas once a day according to the CDC standards. We are inside of the units with the tenants if the tenants have COVID or not. We still must fix toilets, tubs, and everything else needed to have a habitable home. We are being devalued and dismissed in this pandemic. We don't make this crazy notion of a bunch of money. We make $250 per household. Once you skip on 1 month of rent, we are now in the red. I want to give an overwhelming appreciation to the tenants who are still making payments during this trying time. My tenant population, the working poor, have no subsidies in our buildings in the Inglewood community. My tenants were the first people to lose their job due to COVID, and I am more than empathetic to their situation. Now, with the loss of rent, I have been forced to lay off 5 employees, cut the remaining to part-time, and 2 employees quit because part-time pay cannot support their families. I have pleaded with my lenders to allow me to forbear my mortgage, but because I do not have one government-backed loan, they flat out told me no. I had one lender electronically withdraw funds from my account 2 days earlier than agreed because I had to take money from my family to put money into the account to cover the payment. I am being forced to go into my family's savings to try to salvage my property. I got pregnant at 14 years old, and I thought I changed the trajectory of my life. The properties I have acquired was supposed to be my legacy. Now I'm facing foreclosure. because the city and the government is refusing to create a fund to cover the rent to support the one thing you have asked American people to do: stay at home. Stay at home to save lives. On March 11, 2020, President declared the coronavirus a national emergency. Why haven't we been considered with the FEMA funds to protect the basic necessity, housing? We are asking for the second time. City of Chicago, Department of Family and Social Services, and Chicago Housing Authority, a comprehensive proposal to do two things in tandem: create a rental assistance fund, pay the property owners on behalf of the tenants to subsidize the rental overhead, provide emergency temporary housing vouchers for tenants who have lost wages due to COVID-19. The benefits: housing providers will be able to maintain employees and maintain all expenses without the need to abate any taxes, utility payments, or forbear mortgages and rent. And it will stabilize the economy in our neighborhoods. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Our next speaker is Ms. Luangel Logan.
Good morning, City Council members and Mayor Lightfoot. I would like to talk about what is actually going on with the City Council and the Mayor's office as far as making sure we stay safe and housed during the coronavirus pandemic, because it doesn't look like much to this lifelong Chicagoan. You all are only meeting once a month instead of every 2 weeks as you normally would, because I guess COVID-19 creates less of a sense of urgency than usual. And although there are some alders that are trying to make sure their wards have access to face coverings, Chicago as a whole could still definitely use more than more that are openly available and freely accessible to them. And I would expect the mayor's office to be more dedicated to that task, but I don't see any evidence of that. There's also literally zero real rental relief or mortgage assistance being put forth by anyone outside of the $1,000 for 2,000 people and an agreement with a few banks not to charge late fees on late mortgage payments. The mayor's office could have actually worked on something real with the banks, since obviously there is some type of working relationship with them. But Mayor Lightfoot, I guess you couldn't be bothered with that. And outside of the eviction protections offered by the statewide stay-at-home order, Chicagoans don't have any guarantee that they won't lose their homes when it's lifted. The mayor's office could have supported the eviction protection ordinance put forth by some of the aldermen last month, but now it's just sitting in some committee. Mayor Lightfoot, your office recently even pulled back support for what could have been a solid just cause evictions ordinance by the Chicago Housing Justice League that would have prevented landlords from ending leases without reason after you claimed you supported it for months. I mean, what exactly are you all doing to make sure Chicagoans don't get sick and lose their homes? This literally looks like a bid to gentrify the entire city in one pandemic-filled swoop. You people praise essential workers like grocery shoppers and lower-paid healthcare workers, saying they're heroes, while leaving them to wade through a mountain of rental debt and possibly be evicted from their homes. That is not okay. In 3 years, all of you will be seeking re-election. And no, you will not scare away lifelong Chicagoans such as myself, no matter how much you try to cater to the business people you hope will donate to future campaigns. Unlike other issues that may get swept under the rug, COVID-19 is a deadly global pandemic. We will remember all of those we lost, all of those living with the long-term health effects of the virus, and we will remember who supported us and who did not. We are not playing as a cute campaign slogan, but so far it looks like that's all most of local Chicago government has been doing. Get to work and get us some real rent relief and financial assistance and resource assistance we can use right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Logan. The next speaker is Mr. John Wilmack.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. My name is John Womack, and I live with my wife and daughter in the Ravenswood neighborhood. My wife and I bought our first investment property in Belmont-Cragen in 2016, and we currently manage apartments all on the northwest side. Last year, I formed the Northwest Side Building Coalition to bring together housing providers, service providers, and community groups to share information on best practices and advocate on issues impacting our industry and our communities. I also serve on the board of the Neighborhood Building Owner Alliance. My wife and I have assembled a team of people to help manage our properties. Jose, a father of 3, was a new resident that moved into one of our apartments in 2017. He now heads all of our maintenance and renovation work and manages anywhere from 2 to 6 contractors. Maritza, a mother of 4 girls, started out cleaning the common areas, and now she also works with me in the office doing accounting work, and she's studying to get her leasing agent license this summer. The three of us work closely together. Me hacen burla por mi español, pero Maritza a veces trae ceviche, entonces no me quejo. Despite the global pandemic, our work continues. Last Thursday night, 2 of our basement apartments flooded for the first time. The next day, we relocated our residents to a couple of empty apartments we had. 2 of their mattresses were damaged, so we bought them new ones from a store across the city and delivered them to their temporary apartment. This week, our entire team was redirected to fix the plumbing issue and make the repairs needed to their apartments. The residents will move back in by this weekend. This has taken a lot of coordination for our residents, for ourselves, but we work together to get it done. Another of our residents is a single mom with 3 kids. She broke her lease with us to move in with her sister so they could save on rent, homeschool their kids together, and balance their part-time jobs. She only gave us 2 weeks notice and owed us a month of rent, but we told her not to worry about it. It took a few weeks to rent her apartment, which led to further loss of rent, but we moved a new family in last week. We can offer this flexibility because most of the other residents are paying their rent for now. Another resident was working as a baggage handler for United. She was let go early on, then found another job at a U-Haul store, and then was let go again. She's now working in logistics at a warehouse. She's a month and a half behind on rent, but she's working hard to make ends meet, and she continues to make partial payments. In accordance with the Mayor's Solidarity Pledge, we're giving her time to get caught up. I tell you all of this because a lot of other housing providers operate in the exact same way, doing what we can to work with our residents through challenging times. I hope you recognize the vital role housing providers play to provide safe and secure housing to our residents and neighbors, and view us as partners when considering how to tackle the city's housing challenges and policies in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilmick. The next speaker is Mr. Alex Meixor.
Hi, thank you very much, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Alex Meixor, and I'm representing the American Heart Association and American Stroke Association here in Chicago. I'll try to be brief, but, the mayor said it well a few weeks ago when you said that what we're facing right now is a viral pandemic that is essentially preying on an underlying epidemic of chronic disease throughout the city. We know that chronic disease such as hypertension, such as stroke, such as heart disease is spread throughout the city, but its impacts tend to fall hardest on those who have trouble accessing regular care. Chronic disease generally can be managed, but only with the help of regular clinical care. In this stay-at-home environment we find ourselves in, telehealth and telemedicine do help. They do provide options to manage chronic disease, but only for those who have the access to that care, the wherewithal to access those services. If we're looking at hypertension, which afflicts some 600,000 Chicagoans, in order to manage hypertension, you need to have an at-home blood pressure cuff. Now, many folks have been able to buy those on their own, but far too many do not and have not, and their insurance will not cover it, leaving them with the choice of either leaving their home, seeking outpatient monitoring and treatment of their hypertension, which puts them at risk for contracting COVID. And remember, these are folks that are at high risk for bad outcomes from COVID if they do contract COVID, or staying at home and risking heart attack and stroke and all of the medical emergencies that hypertension can lead to. So what we are proposing is a city-backed program that would help provide blood pressure cuffs for these low resource but high risk individuals throughout the city that need to be able to manage their hypertension, manage their chronic diseases at home, need to be able to access some of these telehealth services that have been made available but are unaccessible to them without the proper tools to do so. We at the American Heart Association, as well as our good friends at FQHCs throughout the city, as well as our friends with other, community organizations, health-focused organizations, stand ready to work with the city, ready to work with the public health department to try to get a program like this up and moving. But I think if we can do this, it would both have a beneficial impact in reducing the COVID infection rate by keeping folks at home, reduce the COVID mortality rate by keeping those high-risk individuals from having to expose themselves to COVID, and also help address some of our long-standing health disparities, especially with regard to chronic disease that have led to a life expectancy gap, that have led to so many of the health equity problems that predated COVID and unfortunately will certainly be here long after COVID is thankfully one day in the
Thank you, Mr.
rearview mirror.
Meeks. However, your time has expired. The next speaker is Mr. Jay Johnson.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this morning. My name is Jay Johnson. I've been actively involved in real estate management and development in Chicago for 30 years. As a housing provider, I understand that we are living through unprecedented times. We are all struggling to deal with this crisis. Most housing providers are small businesses that are part of the fabric of our neighborhoods. You see us on a daily basis at our buildings, managing our properties with the goal of maintaining quality housing. In today's environment, this is particularly important and difficult. Rent pays expenses directly related to the operations of the building. This includes real estate taxes that pay for our schools and city services, utilities like water, building repairs, mortgages, and payroll for maintenance staff and managers. Those employees who work in our buildings are your neighbors. They're there to help provide quality housing and contribute to the neighborhood, just like all of us. Neighborhood Building Owners Alliance, or NBOA, is comprised of neighborhood housing groups like the Rogers Park Builders Group that not only invest in bricks and mortar, but the children and adults that live in our neighborhoods. For example, in Rogers Park, we developed a 5-year plan with Sullivan High School that resulted in our group building out 2 classrooms, a life skills room for young people with autism and other developmental challenges. We restored a library, restored musical instruments that allowed a music program to be developed, and funded a theater program. In cooperation with the leadership of Sullivan High School, this investment was a small part of a major renaissance of a school that needed community support. We do projects like this to help young people in our neighborhoods have a better education and life. Recently, we raised $12,000 to fund a local nonprofit that assists refugees with emergency needs in this time of crisis. Rogers Park Builders Group is not unique in this type of endeavor. Many of the housing provider organizations that are part of NBOA across the city are doing similar things to help our neighbors on the south, west, and north parts of the city. In closing, I want to leave you with this. We are housing providers that are providing homes to our neighbors. We are partners with the community that work to create, maintain safe neighborhoods. Together, we can solve the problems that our city faces. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. The next speaker is Mr. James Sanders.
Greetings. Thank you. Greetings, council members and Mayor Lightfoot. I'm James Sanders. I appreciate your time here today. Today, Alderman Andre Vasquez is introducing the Emergency Meetings Act, and I want to speak in support of this ordinance and ask for its swift consideration and passage. Under this ordinance, the currently monthly meetings scheduled would be changed to convene City Council on a bi-monthly basis. Chicago Municipal Code already calls for council meetings on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of every month and was written far before Zoom and virtual meetings were a possibility. During this crisis, it is especially important that our elected officials are meeting regularly in order to consider and pass the real recovery that working families deserve. What we need is a more attention, involvement, and a robust democratic oversight process, especially now. What we are getting instead is a unilateral power grab. I'm concerned with how the mayor is using COVID-19 to give herself more power. This is important to me because so far, the mayor's response has included only a solidarity pledge, asking banks and landlords to take pity on renters and set a small one-time grant program for 2,000 people, to which 86,000 people applied. This response is wholly insufficient, and we need our lawmakers to get to work on the real and bold relief that renters and working families need. Mayor Lightfoot and her administration are attempting to seize more power with limited or no oversight during this crisis. Her emergency powers ordinance, the demolition, and then continued at the Hilco site are the latest signs of this happening. City Council must meet more regularly to ensure co-governance and proper oversight and push for the robust solutions that we need. not more unbinding solidarity pledges with the very corporations and businesses that are trying to evict us while receiving the bulk of stimulus aid. So I ask that we support the Emergency Meetings Act. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. The next speaker is Ms. Carolyn Gibbons.
Ms. Gibbons is not here.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Alan Nash.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Alan Nash, and I work with a small Southside minority-owned business, and I've worked with several of the aldermen handling the ward's electronics recycling events. Honorable Mayor and Council, I'm asking that you promptly, for the physical and mental benefit of all of Chicago, that you promptly reopen the lakefront harbor and other public amenities and provide the following plan outlined to safely, sensibly, and even economically produce revenue. It's based on systems, planning, technology, and staffing that already exist but are shuttered and available. The use of scheduled timed ticketing is a key to controlling allowable access. You can promote and accept corporate and organizational endorsement or underwriting by area, process, or amenity, much like the Chicago Marathon, 10K, Bike to Drive, and other large crowd venue events. You can establish a facility use permit or an e-ticket for scheduled timed use, i.e. use on an existing online reservation platform to permit up to 4 people for, say, 3 hours for $5 per person. It's similar to tea times or museum exhibits. It provides quick and immediately flexible government control of the best allowable number of people. The permit is for scanned entry and exit, just like parking or Spot Hero. The scanned exit is late, there's a $20 fine charged, just like the Illinois tollway, and or a period of denial of future permit for, say, 30 days. Provides simple, flexible control in number of people at any given time and by area. For the underserved community who may not have online access, single permit booths are set up at food banks or other visited facilities for free permit issuance. Entry and exits will be manned by experienced employees, Wrigley Field for the North Side, United Center, Soldier Field for Central, and Guaranteed Rate Field for South Side. This provides trained and experienced personnel to scan tickets, security to replace Chicago police, and management for processing. Secondary personnel would ensure masks and pass out individual chest banners, which would be worn while on the premises, providing quick and easy monitoring by security and police, just like any other sporting event. This immediately relieves the Chicago police force from babysitting entrances, and these valuable personnel can then be used for enforcement and other meaningful police work. Permits can easily be designated by areas, activity, or facility. Path for walking, biking, beachfront for sun, volleyball courts with 4-person maximum, fishing permits, harbors, golf courses, and tennis courts. Eating facilities can be opened for takeout only. This methodology can and should be extended to all parks, the 606, and other public facilities. The plan provides ready jobs, easy
Mr.
access.
Nash, thank you very much for your comments. However, your time has expired. Our final speaker today is Ms. Stacy Sinaski.
My name is.
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Stacy Szymanski. My family and I live approximately 1,200 feet from General Iron and have for the past 16 years. Our home has been rattled by the explosions at General Iron. We are downwind of toxic fires that have occurred. We have endured the traffic jams caused by the massive trucks lining up along North and Kingsbury Avenues. We have been frequently disturbed by the noise and smells emanating from General Iron. We've had molten plastic rain down on us while taking a walk in the neighborhood. But most significantly, every single day, we are exposed to the debris that is spewed from General Iron. We cannot open our windows. When we do, the windowsills, the shutters, and all the surfaces in the room become layered with a black soot. And believe me, this is not dust. This is a granular, black, metallic sediment. It clings to everything and has the texture of fine sand. Bits of it actually stick to a magnet. Our furnace filters need to be changed frequently and are completely blackened in 2 months. Our deck and deck furniture is covered in this dirty black particulate residue. Even the flowers I grow are coated in this material. I love to garden, but I would never consider growing anything to eat. It is way too filthy. Every day, when we come and go from our homes, sit on our decks, play in the courtyard, barbecue on our patio, and now, while we're home working and studying, this ash is being expelled into the air. Our home is one of 19 townhomes in a complex. There are older individuals, as well as families with young children and expectant mothers living in this community. As a physician, I worry about the health of the residents in our neighborhood. As one example, there are children with asthma, which is exacerbated when the rancid air drifts from general iron. My neighbors and my family are being asked to stay home to protect ourselves and our lungs, while general iron has been allowed to continue to pollute our homes. We have dealt with these issues for years, but now in the midst of a global pandemic from a virus causing severe respiratory illness, our community is urging the City Council to permanently shut down general iron so we actually can be safer at home. Again, please close general iron as it lacks the federally required controls and it creates an unsafe environment for the City of Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zanaski. The time allotted for the public comment period has expired.
Concludes the public comment. Let's move to communications. Mr. Clerk.
A series of communications from our Honor the Mayor to the Honorable the City Council of the City of Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Planning and Development, I transmitted with an ordinance authorizing an allocation of NOF funds to the Intercity Muslim Action Network. Your favorable consideration of this ordinance will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Lori E. Lightfoot, Mayor. Referred to the Committee on the Budget and Government Operations. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Budget Director, I transmit herewith a Fund 925 amendment. Your favorable consideration of this ordinance will be appreciated. Very truly yours, Lori E. Lightfoot, Mayor. Referred to the Committee on the Budget and Government Operations. Ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the Commissioner of Housing, I transmitted with